Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage. So it's been quite a few days since I've uploaded a video, and it's been quite a few days since I've actually worked on the race truck or anything like that. Part of the reason is it is hunting season, so I am a hunter. I enjoy doing that. So since the truck is pretty much where it needs to be to go back to the track, minus a thing or two, I figured I'd take some time and do some hunting. No luck as of yet, but definitely nice to get out there. So anyhow, the truck, as you guys who have been following along with the channel have seen, is pretty much where it needs to be to go back to the track other than the transmission. So when we were down in Florida, we found a bunch of miscellaneous stuff we needed to correct, and we have corrected majority of that. There's a couple little odds and ends here that really wouldn't keep us from doing anything, but some other stuff we can sort out, and I haven't exactly figured out how I want to go about yet. But anyhow, I'm trying to think of other stuff to do. I've also been kind of looking over it. I'll come out in the garage and just look over it, figure out what can we do to make this thing even better for next year. You know, these frame rails, they're awful heavy. But that being said, we're not going to fall into the trap that we did the last, well, for a while now, of, you know, trying to get the truck ready for the track, and then next thing you know, it's the end of the season because we tackled too large of a project, or we were waiting on something, or whatever. We're not going to do that. We're going to take small little jobs and do them, and we're trying not to overextend myself, so that way when April or March or whatever rolls around, we got good weather and like Cecil's open or there's racing, we can have the truck out and about, because that's the goal. We've spent all this time in the garage. It's time to get out and put it to work. So what are we doing tonight? So tonight we are actually going to do a little bit of a weight reduction upgrade. Also, I think it'll make pulling our transmission in and out a little bit easier, which, as you can see, our transfer case is still on the floor. We're still waiting for the guys in Muldoon's to get the transmission back, and we're actually waiting on the converter to come back from Suncoast, but everything is due in hopefully this week, so that way we can, you know, get everything together and hopefully make a couple test and tunes before the end of the year. So that's all coming. We'll go over all that stuff when we get there, but this is transmission related what we're doing. So we have our factory transmission cross member here. This is a 68 RFE cross member. It also works if you're going to 48 swap a 4th gen. It's the same cross member as a 48 truck would have. And anybody who's taken one of these out, they're not light. They're like 15 or 20 pounds. So good place that we can save some weight. It's a little overkill. Remember, these trucks are built to tow a ridiculous amount of weight anymore. So they have to make everything just that much stronger and all that. Also, we do have our solid motor mounts in the front, so that helps to keep things from twisting and all that. But what we're doing is, actually, this is not the factory transmission mount, my mistake. It is the factory transmission cross member. So the cross member, we are still going to be utilizing the factory mount, which has rubber bushings in it, but we're going to fabricate our own lightweight cross member. So we are going to use this stuff right here. So we have our last little piece of 1 5/8 083 wall dough call. We have these two pieces I made up. These are also 1 5/8 083 dough call that I have fabricated to be our spacers for the bolting locations of the factory cross member. So what I did here, basically took our tube, then I made, you know, I took a washer really is what I did, and I welded a tube to the inside of it, and then on the other side took a washer and drilled it out further so the tube actually came up through it, welded that inside here, welded everything all together. So now we have a tube within the tube, capped on either end. We should have some good strength here, and it's pretty tight for our bolt holes, so we won't have any slop or anything like that. So we have two of those, our tube, which will span the joint, and then I made this plate as well. It's a piece of 1/4 inch flat bar. It's, I think, 3 inches, but I slotted it for the 3 bolts of our transmission mount. So what we'll do is we'll get everything in there. We'll have to notch our tube and then we can line everything up, get this plate welded in there, and then we will have a lightweight transmission cross member. Should make things a lot easier going in and out with the transmission, weight wise, just hassle wise, because you know that thing's just a pain. You're laying under there, all that. It'll just make things a whole lot simpler, I'm hoping, and it will also save weight on the truck. So let's get to it. I've rambled on long enough. I already have our measurements and all that because, like I said, I prefabbed a little bit of this. So we're going to get to notching our tube and getting this thing made up, installed, and then, well, eventually it's getting pulled back out when the transmission gets here. Alright, so got the cross member tacked in, looking good. It's actually the second time I had it tacked in, so I actually moved it to the rear of the truck a half of an inch, because when I put our plate up here, let's see, yeah, so when I put our plate up here, and I don't know if I'll be able to show you this, but if you guys can see where the bolt is now, like I said, I moved this bar back a half an inch. So when I had it up there, it was looking like when I'd put the nut on that bolt, I probably wouldn't be able to get a socket on it, and it'd probably be a pain to get the bolt on. I'm not an engineer. I work on stuff, so I'm not going to make it harder on myself. So we had to cut the tacks and move it back. That being said, I'm not happy with our plate, so I have some notes on it so I can redo it tomorrow. Let me get comfortable here. So the problem with our plate, if we put it up here, I made our slots a little larger than factory on the sides to give us a little more room. And it looks like the way I went to give it a little more room, I didn't help myself. I actually just made the slot bigger, so I'm not real happy about that. But also, if you look at how the slots are, I want to kind of have the bolts, they don't need to be centered in the slot, but with, you know, some wiggle room either way. But then I'm losing, you know, my weld here on this joint. I'd really like to have the plate kind of hanging over it a little bit. Let me see. Yeah, I'd like to have it kind of hanging over a little bit so I can get a nice good fillet weld in there. And yeah, I'm not getting that with this. I should have had like another 3/4 of an inch on the back of this, and then, you know, if it stuck out too much, we could cut it down. The other thing is that these bolts are actually staggered, which I saw on the factory cross member here. So as you guys can see, staggered, or very, very far forward, middle of the road, and further back. So I thought about doing that with my plate, but I said screw it and just made them all the same length. So I'm going to have to redo this plate, make it 3/4 of an inch longer this way at least, and then stagger these slots the way the factory cross member is, just so it'll work better. And you know, the point of making this longer is that we'll get a better weld. Yeah, so this cross member, I like where it's sitting right now, so I think I'm going to fully weld that out and we'll be good there. Then all we got to do is worry about our plate and then put it back in the truck and get it all aligned and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's proving, I don't want to say more difficult, but I definitely thought it was going to be easier than this. So, well, I guess more difficult is the right way to say it. So anyway, I'm going to make a new plate, weld this out, and get back with you guys tomorrow. All right, so we are back here in the garage the next night, and we have our cross member fully welded. Everything is done there. I made a new plate today. Our slotted holes are staggered. They are also thinner. The other one, we had widened the holes to give us a little more slop. Actually had the mount with me when I did them so I could make sure that everything was good. So everything is great there. The slots here are 1/2 inch wide, which is exactly what they are on the factory cross member. But this is also, like I said, they're staggered, and this is also 1 inch wider. So that should hopefully get us where I want to be on this cross member. So it'll kind of sit sort of like this. And then I made some gusset plates like so. So that way we can gusset this thing, make sure it's good and strong. It'll be like this, but you know, the opposite. So let's get this thing back into the mounts on the truck, and then we can tack in our plate and get our gussets and get everything fully welded, and this project will be done, other than, well, a coat of paint. But since we're still waiting on our transmission, that won't be a big deal. All right, so much welding later, our cross member is in and it works. So I have the mock-up trans bolted to it right now. Everything's in, good. Very happy with the result. Everything's looking good. We have a little play. You guys can't see that in our slots. So we do have plenty of room back and forth. Really, I slid it up here, you know, put one bolt in, rotated it up, put the other bolt in, and all the bolt holes for the mount lined right up, and you know, didn't have to fiddle with it at all. I did have to jack on the front of the oil pan up so that way I could get some thread engagement, which with our normal transmission won't be an issue because the weight of the trans when you come off the trans jack will bring everything down. So very happy with the result. I'll go ahead and pull this back out because I'm going to throw a coat of paint on it, and then show you guys the gussets I put in and all that kind of stuff. All right, so here's our mount again. Got back out of the truck so we can paint it. I am very happy with the results of this thing. Looks great. We got, you know, 4 gussets under here on the plate just to keep it from, you know, trying to bend up or down or whatever. But yeah, very happy with the result. This thing is nice and light. It's definitely an improvement over the factory big thing. So I actually weighed them. The factory mount weighs, factory cross member, not mount, factory cross member weighs 18 pounds. Ours weighs 9. So we cut the weight of the cross member in half. We also lost a couple of bolts. So we're only utilizing 2 bolts rather than 4 bolts, but we actually went up a size. The factory bolts are metric size, I don't know, but I had to drill out the holes a little bit, just a tiny bit, and we're putting 5/8 bolts back in, grade 8 hardware and all that with some lock nuts. But we cut 9 more pounds out of the truck, and I think this new cross member will be a lot easier to install. I can just put a bolt in one side, swing it up, put it in the other. The factory one, you got to kind of hold up and get in there and then get one bolt in and get the other one in with it in the mount. So it should be easier that way. Also, the bolts underneath, I can get right to them. There's no issues, like, you know, the reason we made the new plate of not being able to get a socket on it, not an issue. We got plenty of room in our slots. Like I said, very happy with the results. So I always say, I keep saying, you know, every ounce counts, you know, every pound matters. You know, we're trying to cut the weight out of the truck. So you figure we cut 9 pounds there. We cut like 6.5 pounds out of our parking brake assemblies. And then with our speed holes, we cut another 1.5 pounds out. So there we're looking at 17 pounds out of the truck. And if I remember correctly, we were only 25 pounds out of our certification to go, you know, below an 850 for our 25/6 cert. So 25 pounds, we just cut 17 pounds out of the truck. Another what is it, 8 pounds, and we're there. So just all this little stuff adds up, and that's what I've been trying to kind of, you know, beat in your guys' head. That's why I know, like, hey, the speed holes, yeah, it didn't seem like a lot, and it wasn't. It was only like 1.5 pounds. That 1.5 pounds and 1.5 pounds here and 1.5 pounds there, it all just cumulatively adds up. And that's what we've done throughout the whole build of the truck. Like when we had the cab off, took all the extra sheet metal inside, underneath the cab, all that kind of stuff, pulled it out. You know, that was all just weight. So we're pretty close to being within our 25/6 cert. Now, honestly, I would love to get another 500 pounds out of the truck, get it down, well, actually 700 pounds, no, 500 pounds out of the truck, because the 5,000 pound numbers with me in it. So it's about it's almost 5,000 pounds now with me in it. Like I said, we're what, 8 pounds over that. So we need to get that, or, well, I'm gonna go on a diet and we'll get 8 pounds there. But anyhow, my point is, if we can get another 500 pounds out of the truck, and we'll see what the truck runs at the track, you know, we could have potentially a Pro Street truck. The minimum weight for Pro Street is, I believe, 4,500 pounds. So we could be in there. Now, that being said, you can add 250 pounds of ballast. So if we could even cut 750 pounds out of the truck, which even the 500 without changing axles and all that would be hard to do without, you know, especially being we're not going to back half the truck right now. But anyhow, the point is, if we could even get it lower than that and add the 250 pounds of ballast, if it ends up being a Pro Street truck, because we didn't build the truck to fit 590 Pro Street or anything like that. I built the lightest, most capable truck that I thought I could build, or, you know, I envisioned. I think we can take it further in the future, but that's kind of where it's at. Whatever class it falls in, which we know already it can run a 590. We ran a 6.0 at minimum power when we were at Emerald Coast, and I don't even think I was all the way up. I think I should have sat on the line for another second or so and built boost a little more, but potentially we could have a Pro Street truck. So we go to other events. If it was at that 750 pounds less, you could take that 250 pound ballast out, and now you have an even faster truck. So I know I'm kind of rambling, but that's kind of what's going through my mind with all this weight stuff. Like I said, every pound's adding up, and we're starting to see where that is. We were 25 pounds over before, now we're about 8 out. So if I get a, you know, good couple weeks of a diet, we'll be right there. So anyway, guys, I know I'm rambling on and on. Our lightweight transmission cross member is looking good. I'm definitely digging it. I'll throw a coat of paint on it, and it will be ready for install hopefully next week with our transmission from Muldoon's and our converter from Suncoast. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like the video, subscribe down below. Catch you guys on the next one. Get out in your garage, get the wrenching on your truck.